apparently, this is something that people put out trying to.
Alright, the time is 6:31. I'll call this work session to order.
They say it's not real, so don't worry about it.
Mayor, if I can have just a second, please, a little announcement I'd like to make. Some of you have already heard, but some unfortunate news in the Witts household this morning. Carol's son passed away this morning from complications of diabetes. Very much unexpected, very much a surprise. Just please keep the Witts family and all of that family in your thoughts and prayers. Talked to Tom about an hour ago, and as one might expect, there's just a lot of shock and disbelief at this moment. Don't have any details yet, and all the details will be forthcoming as soon as we know more. So I'll also make that announcement when we start our meeting tonight. Thank you.
We have tonight, we'll have a moment of silence then for, what's his name? What's his name?
His name was Rick.
Rick, I didn't get any of the
I
details.
forget his last name.
He was just down here for Christmas.
We then have announcements. You each received a copy of the announcements in your packet. We'll have a pledge to the flag, ceremonial matter, we'll have a proclamation for the Red Cross and for the Snellville Middle School ROTC. You received a copy of the minutes. Does anyone have any corrections or objections to the minutes from February 25th? Mr. Ewing will be here tonight. City manager's report. Anything you want to tell us now?
I'm just going to, I guess, talk about some changes that we made in some economic development procedures and update you on the CFI. Had a meeting last week on that.
And then we'll have our first reading on CUP 13-01. If I can get a motion at the appropriate time to waive that and put it on our, that'll be March 25th. Under new business, we have the ethics complaint, Councilman Manuel.
Only thing I can think to do at this point is postpone it. I think you've seen the correspondence, and I originally brought it up simply because it was a citizen complaint and I felt needed to be addressed, and I'm out of it at this point. It's between Mr. Sabah and the complainant.
Okay.
And I think we need to probably put it behind the George Anderson matter, because that's going to address the way ethics complaints are handled, and that's going to be a court decision. So at this point, that's all I can say about it.
So would the proper action then be to table?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we have the resolution on the moratorium. That's the same as before. We're just extending because our 90 days, we're not quite ready for that yet.
That's correct.
Anybody have any questions on the group home moratorium?
Very complex regulations that we're digging in there. John has done a lot of research. I've done some research, and we want to make sure we get it right and make it as, we want to follow the law, but we want to make sure it's as strict and has as much oversight as we can put in there.
Are these new state or county regulations, or federal?
These are state and federal regulations.
And moving on to our work session agenda, we have the business incentives. Last meeting, I think Eric gave y'all a copy of the ordinance I had written a couple years ago. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Right.
I'm actually going to hand it to Ms. Arnold this time. The powder springs, and then also the city of Norcross's ordinances that I'll have her email out to y'all. If you don't have any questions on the existing one, then we'll send these out and put it back on the next work session.
Did you get mine that I sent you?
Yes.
Okay.
And
It's just,
did you just send that to me, or did that go to everybody?
just
Okay, so I'll forward that to everybody else.
Well, I guess one of my only questions with regard to business incentives and incentives such as that is how do we know we're losing business now?
We don't know, one of the things we talked about when we went to the project manager meeting is that sometimes businesses will do internet searches, and there's no way for us to know who actually doesn't even make the phone call because we don't have anything out there. And so even if we don't put the specifics of our incentives, it's been recommended by the project managers for the state of Georgia that we have something so that businesses know we're willing to talk to them.
Well, why don't it just be a statement that says we're willing to talk to you, consider Snellville?
You can't do it by statement, we have to either adopt a policy or an ordinance, so that's what I'm putting forward, and if you don't want to support it at the appropriate time, then so be it, but.
It's not a matter of that, it's a matter of a question, is all it
I'm
was.
moving forward with it. If you've got some suggestions on ways to draft the ordinance, then that's fine.
Well, I'll certainly have them.
Economic development update, Eric.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick brief, the two dates just to keep in mind are the March 21st, 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock are the DDA meeting and the URA meeting. And I'm going to take a little bit of time this evening and talk about with you the 11 by 17 diagram I put in front of you. As Butch and I chatted, we thought it would be a good opportunity to kind of refresh and also bring you up to speed on where some things that are happening with entrepreneurship, especially at the high school programs, but even in the larger realms. And I'm just going to start kind of on the upper left-hand side and go around the circle. The first one to mention is just we have some social and community group sponsors, and you can see those. I want to start with the business sponsors, which is I've recently had conversations with Nick Messino at the Chamber in partnership with Gwinnett, approaching him in that as we are expanding our entrepreneurship program at the high school and in the city, we'd like to see full engagement of the Gwinnett Chamber at this point, and he was in support of that. And so he and I are going to start to talk about what that looks like on a larger basis. But he was very in support of that, especially supporting the high school programs as we move into more schools, as I'll be talking about as we get to the other side of this diagram. There will be 4 schools engaged, and it'll be nice to have some additional support. Mark Farmer is his Director of Entrepreneurship at the Gwinnett County, or at the Gwinnett Partnership, just to say that. We've also got the Greater Eastside Chamber, local business owners, regional business owners. We do play, just so you know, with the SBDCs. I met with the SBA guy today. He's very interested in what we're doing. He's noticed the entrepreneur efforts that we're making and wants to be kept appraised and see if there are places that we can inject good information in what he's doing. And obviously he would also like to be involved in what we're doing at this point. Also SCORE and some of their online training and things they offer. The governments of Grayson and Gwinnett County have been engaged. In Brookwood, we've run into this situation where we wanted to be able to issue our same kind of student class of business licenses at the county level, since Brookwood, a lot of their students are from the county area. And things look positive there. They haven't given official approval yet, but I think that we're only a couple of meetings away from that, or a couple of phone calls away from that. And the same with the city of Grayson. They've been talking about as well, since one school we're expanding to in the fall will be Grayson High School. They are interested as well, because some of those students would be from the city of Grayson and be able to issue that as well. Moving into the next box with educational partners, and these do mainly focus on our high school program, but even more than that on the college level as well. Chris Hanks is director of the entrepreneur program at UGA in the Terry College of Business. He is very interested in what we're doing. He's been tracking it since last year. He's been part of our comments and kind of part of our sounding board that we've been using. And some of the discussions that we've had there is how can we engage the young people in his college classes, in what our young people are doing here in Snellville. For example, he runs a college class at the University of Georgia, Terry College of Business, that is an 18-week course on entrepreneurship, and he expects the students in that class to go from 0 to revenue in 9 weeks. So they have to come up with a business idea, build a business plan, and get their first revenue in 9 weeks, and then mature it after that. That's kind of an interesting roller coaster you could be on for that, and I think there's some things he brings to our table that can help us develop and continue to develop a cutting-edge program.
I'll hire the first one that does it. I'll hire the first one that does it.
Well, he's already on the second or third class, so he's got some interesting things going out there. Just as a side note, for example, he has a program that he uses that they run it like American Idol, only they use it as a UGA entrepreneurs. And over the course of a year, they start out with anybody who wants to step into the arena like American Idol. They take them all in, and by the time they get to the end of the year, 5 of them make a pitch for $100,000 in VC capital. And they've been doing this now for 2 years, so that somebody got it awarded last year. He's doing some great things out there. Is very excited about what we're doing here in education and entrepreneurship, and is going to be a sounding board and step up to even more of an advisory role for the program and help us do some brainstorming. Other opportunities there, as well as these other areas that I mentioned, are in the dual degree areas, and looking at how we might dual degree and partner with UGA, dual credit for the high school students, and so there's some really neat things as well, even to the point of just having his students come here and mentor some of our students, which if you're familiar with high school students, the ones they look at most is the next grade up level from them, so to have them kind of mentoring the students is something they really like to hear from. Dean Johnson at the Georgia Gwinnett College, I met with her a couple of weeks ago, very interested in what we're doing as well, is interested in being, again, another one of those people we're going to have as our advisory board role folks. She has said that she wants me to meet Dean Moore, who is the Dean of the College of Education up there. That meeting is set later this month, and we will be talking more about them doing the same thing, dual degrees, dual enrollment, dual credit for all their classes. Again, they are very interested in some things that are going on in what we're doing, and we are now very much on their radar, as well as Gwinnett Technical College. I think some of you are familiar with those folks there, and that we've been talking with them for a couple of years about what we do. Flipping to the other side in the top, the recruitment and attraction, we're working on that, and I just put that up there so you know it was a continuing piece of what's going on. But the main focus is the small business and entrepreneurship. There are those 2 other boxes. That is a focus on retention and expansion as well. Those efforts that we do to encourage and grow small businesses also help retain them and attract them to the community, because they want to be in places where they know they can get support, and the community supports their growth. The Snellville Entrepreneur Summits, we're going to be on our second one in April 23rd, and going very well. Snellville Entrepreneur Council, the mentoring and the advisory boards, you've had time to hear about those in some pieces, also going very well. The Snellville Business Toolbox, we frame that as a virtual business incubator online. And then I'm going to skip the entrepreneur clubs for a minute and jump down to the last box and come back to that, because I just want to keep that one as a final statement. In the final box there, workforce development and youth attraction, which is a big piece about what our young entrepreneur program is about. The Gwinnett County Public Schools, as you are aware and becoming more aware of, is looking at a big way in what to do with entrepreneurship, and has been looking at our programs to do that. George Gomez, who is in the office of the executive director, Mr. Alvin Wilbanks' office, spent almost 2.5 hours at Brookwood High School a couple of weeks ago, talking with Principal Dees and talking with our teacher, and actually spent an hour looking at our classroom there and all the things that were going on. And I'm pleased to report that the hour that he was there, that the high school students were model students. I always just hold my breath a little bit on that, because you just never know with high school students sometimes. But they were model students. We had 5 community entrepreneurs engaged in the classroom, and the students, I tell you, I looked around the room at one point, and every student at every table was engaged with the entrepreneurs, trying to figure out how to do it. You've heard me say sometimes that we have a third that are just there, a third that are compliant, and a third that are actually engaged students. I was excited to see the whole class really engaged in that activity and paying attention, because those were some individual business owners actually giving their time to be in the classroom, and the kids took advantage of it. Jody Reeves is also engaged with us. The Gwinnett Public Schools, through her, has just engaged $10,000 to send 7 teachers to an entrepreneur education certification this summer, so that they can come back and be ready to be engaged in all of our classes in the fall on a much more significant manner. So they're making some significant money contributions just in the teaching of their teachers. Ongoing, you can just see there so you're aware, our ongoing classes are at South Gwinnett High School, Snellville Middle School, Brookwood High School, and Cruz Middle School are all places where we're engaged in different ways in what's going on at their schools. And it's exciting to see that. Both of those schools, just the statement to say it if you're not aware, Snellville Middle feeds into South Gwinnett, Cruz Middle feeds into Brookwood. That is an intentional engagement, because we want to start engaging the young people at the middle school age to be ready, so that when they move into our 9th grade class in entrepreneurship, they might have ideas, and they have more kind of basis than the current 9th graders have had coming in. And then finally, or second to finally, classes in the fall. Both Central Gwinnett High School and Grayson High School are approaching us and have moved fairly well down the path to engaging the class. So far to say is Central Gwinnett High School has actually hired a teacher specifically for their entrepreneur class, and their AP is in there. I will just add a caveat to that. My focus has been on South Gwinnett, Brookwood, and Grayson because those are our three Snellville high schools, so to speak. Central Gwinnett is not a Snellville high school as I would consider it, but Lisa Sherman and I have been working together fairly closely, and she is going to be the one supporting Central Gwinnett High School in their efforts. So I'm playing more of a helper role in that and an oversight role in letting Lisa do the more heavy lifting that we've been doing for the other schools. So we won't play as big a role in that, other than they'll be following and using the curriculum we've been using, our processes that we've been using, and engaging businesses in a similar manner that we've been using to do that. But Grayson will be one of those. Bob O'Keefe is also an entrepreneur on his own, and we're very interested in those two schools starting in the fall. It gives us a really heavy kind of weight or gravity as part of the Gwinnett County Public Schools, and the efforts that they're making as they look to figure out what their entrepreneur education role is going to look like in a much bigger way. And finally, I'll end on a note that kind of sums it all up. The entrepreneur clubs, we talk about attracting young people back to the community. We talk about providing reasons for the young people to engage in our community. I was approached about 6 months ago by two students from Kennesaw State who are also Snellville residents, or were Snellville residents, and now they're at Kennesaw State. And most recently, we've been having conversations, and they will be coming back to the community to lead some entrepreneurship clubs, both with our high schoolers and to see if they can engage other young people in doing entrepreneurship in our community. So that's exciting. That's another evidence that what we're doing is paying off, because that is the evidence of two young people that came back to the community because of what we're doing in entrepreneurship, because of the high school programs, because of the middle school programs, because of the adult programs. So that's good news. Thank you, Mayor.
Any questions for Eric?
No. Thanks, sir.
Good job.
Yeah, well done.
LCI update.
LCI update is very short and sweet. We received a letter from our new project manager saying that she's taken up our cause as far as the lighting fixtures, has sent a letter to the feds getting us approval for a proprietary lighting fixture, the ability to do that and pay for it. We provided her all the information we possibly could. Have not heard back from the feds yet, but that has to be. We'll get an up or a down vote, a yes or a no on the proprietary nature of the fixture, and we have to have that before we go to bid. If I could follow up just 1 second on Eric's report, what I've handed out is I guess a synthesis of what Eric gave out a couple weeks ago. We had 2 economic development ordinances. As the economy picks up, as people start looking to make investments hopefully in our community, working with Partnership Gwinnett, we're going to get hits. We're going to get information, and it's one of those things that you have to pay to play. And one of the things you've got to pay with is an ordinance. I mean, you got the recommendation from Nick, Partnership Gwinnett at the Chamber, and Eric kind of massaged what they had. We're nowhere near on the level that Partnership Gwinnett is. They are a totally separate infrastructure. We are a local government. We have to approach economic development much differently. I took Eric's two versions and tried to simplify and give control. This just kind of sets the framework. If you want to do incentives, you can do it through an ordinance like this. It meets Partnership Gwinnett's pay-to-play requirement. If we're going to be involved in that type of recruitment and development effort, we have to have an ordinance. And it retains, the mayor and council retains total control over what they do as far as incentives and entering into a final contract. Eric and I will recommend, but that's all. You know, and you got an entity like Partnership Gwinnett where they can enter into these agreements. You know, the county commissioners have signed off on anything that Partnership Gwinnett and Chamber does. They have a very set a very defined set of standards for when they will do so. But and so I really and I think this can go hand in hand with anything we do in the incentive area, and it just allows us to do what we want to do. So and we do have to have this if we're going to, you know, be a player in the development community. Please look this over, mark it up, ask any questions you've got. We need to coordinate all our efforts that that are going on right now, and this may be a foundation for doing so. Please take a look. Okay.